There he is.
What's happening, guys?
What's
up,
up,
buddy?
bro?
How you doing?
Good.
Sorry, man.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for tuning in tonight or today, because we're a little bit earlier than normal. We've got Fred Roumbanis with us. I mean, he's hopefully soon to be a Hall of Famer. He's got 20 years under his belt of professional fishing, and he's graciously agreed to come on here and talk some frog fishing with us. And so, everybody, Fred. Fred, I guess kick us off. Tell us kind of how you got where you're at. I mean, you've been doing this a long time, and uh, think back 20 years ago. Like, what was that leap like for you?
It's crazy because just first of all, thank you all for having me on your show. I really appreciate this. It's gonna be fun tonight. But yeah, no, 20 years has gone by really fast, and it's been an absolute roller coaster ride of tournament fishing. And the thing about tournament bass fishing that most people don't realize, I guess, just looking from the outside in, is each event you have roughly 100 boats or sometimes more or less, depending on what the events are. Only one person's a winner at each one of these events. So you may fish half a dozen a year. And by the end of it, if you win one, you've done something really special. And just being able to survive and be able to do this for 20 years is probably just as hard as winning a single event. So I look at it now that I've got these years of experience behind me, but going into it, when I first did it, I grew up in California. I grew up really, my dad was a cable car conductor in San Francisco. My mom worked in the city, and we had a little reservoir, Lafayette Reservoir, just over the hill, a couple of miles as a bird would fly. And I'd pretty much take my BMX bike with a couple fishing rods and haul butt down to that reservoir every day as a kid. And that's what kind of drew the passion in bass fishing for me. We had some other lakes that I'm sure I'm not really supposed to have fished as a kid, golf course ponds,
Oh yeah.
wineries up in Napa. When I got my driver's license, the BMX changed to a mobile bass boat per vehicle, right? Car. I never really actually stepped foot into a bass boat until I was 18 years old. So I literally just pond hopped my entire life and up until 18 years old. And just loved it. I mean, we'd come home at, my buddies and I would come back and we'd rent, VHS of, tapes of, I don't know, it was like Bill Dance and Jimmy Houston, just old school stuff. And just watching and getting excited, or like Bassmasters would come on TNN back then. And there was like one of the few channels I had on my TV. And I'd watch the Bassmasters and see, Larry Nixon catching these big bass. And it just got me so fired up, and it's something I wanted to do. And I just remember, sorry, I got some dogs in the background.
Oh, you're good.
Some noise. I just remember as a kid, like wanting to chase this dream, and nobody else other than a couple of real close friends of mine, which we all still talk daily. It was such a small niche dream. Nowadays, fast forward 20 years, it's dang mainstream. I mean, I got two boys of my own now, and they're in sports, and in between sports games, whether, with my youngest being more of the athlete and my oldest getting a college scholarship for fishing, it's mainstream now. These kids go from football practice to fishing ponds to, I mean, we're going to do a Thursday nighter tonight with my youngest son. So it's really impressive how big the sport has gotten just over 20 years. I mean, now I say I've been doing it professionally for 20 years, but I'm 46. I'll be 47 this year. I don't feel it. Just, it's crazy. I'm not old right now, but, dreaming of it since I was 10 years old and living it for all these years, I sometimes pinch myself that it's been a reality. So
What did you do that kind of 10 years before going pro? Did you
so,
like pro local derbies and?
and this is something that I would tell a lot of young kids wanting to do it. Obviously, things are different now because you've got high school teams. You've actually got kind of a structure leading towards the professional fishing. We didn't have that. At 15 years old, when I was old enough to get a job, I went and applied at a local tackle store. And I'd have my mom drive me over there when she was available, or my friends that worked there, their parents would drive us until I got my driver's So I worked at a tackle store, kind of in it, and then I went and kind of got in the industry from there. Met some reps, started working some trade show, some local, like the Cow Palace in San Francisco would have a big annual boat show, and I'd go work for Iowa with the Iowa rep. And I just kind of got into the sales side of it really young. Then I started working for this company making spinner baits, and this is kind of a fun fact. Uh, yeah, I used to make spinner baits for this company called Viper. They changed the name to VPR, but I was making spinner baits for guys like Gary Dobbins that was fishing tournaments, and he had won 3 bass floats in 5 weeks on spinner baits I made, and I was like 17 years old at the time. So it was pretty cool to be able to do that kind of stuff and get behind the business of it. And I became a sales rep, um, worked for a distributor. I was in college, and then got the sales position working for Daiwa in my early 20s, and then was repping a bunch of other products. I did Yozuri, Power Pro when it first came out, a lot of really cool brands, Cigar. I did a lot of these really cool stuff. Just at a pretty young age, just getting into the business side, kind of built that foundation for me. My goal was always to fish tournaments. Didn't really know how I was ever going to get there. Like I said, I never stepped foot in a bass boat until I was 18. Had to do some construction, like demolition work, right? Pin things down. Um, so other than lure, right? Well, um, I just, I did everything I could. I was a hustler. I was a young hustler. Got my first boat at 18, sunk it on my 19th birthday on the Delta. I battled it my entire career. But that's what's exciting is those little victories. But when you go to an event and you catch a big fish or something like that, it may not be the winning bag, but you caught big fish the event or something like that. Those mini victories just kept fueling that fire. Fast forward till I got the opportunity. I was actually went to work for Akuma Rods and Reels in Ontario, living in Huntington Beach at the time, and a little apartment there. I qualified to be. I fished the first year the Ever Starts ever went out west. I fished them. Akuma sponsored me to fish them, gave me time off to fish them, and I qualified to the FLW tour from those Western series. And when I did that, I was just, I was kind of like barely getting by, right? Like just my paychecks would go to rent, and if I had any extra money, I would try to get on the water, but I just didn't have the means, other than the tournaments I fished. And then I got this letter in the mail from Kathy Fennell, FLW Outdoors operation bass at the time, saying that I qualified to the FLW tour, and it had a whole payout thing. And I saw a lot of zeros behind some of those checks for first place, and even just cashing a check. I was like, "This is legit. This is a dream." And I got a kind of a partial sponsorship with them, and I really haven't looked back since. I did fish the first year on the FLW tour. Came the last of the season, and I was throwing a frog. So a frog at Champlain. I had probably the winning area, the winning technique. I just did something bonehead dumb. I went to Cola 4-pounder with my live well wide open and a 4.5 made its way out of the live well and into the lake with about 10, 15 minutes of fishing time left. So I went from 4 fish. I went from basically having 6 to call down to 4 fish. Like, where's my fifth one? I think it was my fifth one at the time. Yeah, the fourth one jumped out. So I went back down to 4 fish, caught one real quick, and made it back in. And it was really rough. And I had an older boat at the time, a lot older than most guys on the tour. And I actually went through a wave coming back and came out, like speared one. And my cowling off my motor had actually ripped off. And I came in but I ended up 12th place, missing the top 10 cut by just ounces or whatever it was. And the worst part of that whole deal was that fish not only cost me a shot at maybe winning 200 grand in that tournament, it also cost me requalifying to get the FLW tour. I finished 101 in the points, and back then you had to be in the top 100. So it was devastating to everything that I worked for at that point. Came back, and I actually got invited to go fish the Euro Cup in Spain. And when I did that, I was with Kelly Jordan. Kelly's like, "Why don't you go fish the Northern Ever Start series here in the fall?" They haven't even started yet. And I'm like, "Really?" And get back in. it was never a matter of can I qualify. I always figured I would. Like I don't know, just figured I was good enough to do that. Anyway, I went out there and um, won lacrosse Wisconsin on a frog right when I was dead broke. And it was actually I think I was maybe even leading the points after the first day of the next event at Detroit River. And then the second day at Detroit River, I had actually come across this is crazy. I'm going into so much detail about this, but I found a dead body and
Oh
it
man.
destroyed my day. Never caught a fish that day. Went to the uh, Coast Guard, took them over to it and everything else. And I went from actually 25th place for fit out of that and leading AYT, not catching fish. And but here's the kicker: I requalified. That's all I I got back, and then at the same time, that fall, I went back and fished the Bass Opens in the West End to qualify to the Bassmaster Elite Series, which was the inaugural season of the back. So, um, being single, 25 years old, I'm thinking, you know what? Let's fish both tours. Let's do it. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. I'd actually won 2 boats in about 4 months, and I just went for it. And at the very first elite tournament, I finished second to Ish Monroe, and had a 9 pounder in my hand with my last cast, and it got out of my hand and under the boat on a big roommate into a tree, and I ended up having to break it off. Can't stage my comments border. And there was a 9 pounder. I won by 4 pounds. Stuff like that. Used a little money to kind of back me, and I just kept throwing it back into the pot. Just kept throwing it back into these tournaments, and a couple years, next year, one that pretty much set me free, and then one another lead after that. Then the sponsors started coming in after that. Really, up until then, I had very little sponsorship. I always did it off winnings, and I out fishing, swim bait, frog fishing, trying to find those bites everywhere. Every location I went, some places I never found. Well, that's the place I found it, bro. Uh, it's fast forward a bit. The Bass Pro Tour is totally against everything I fish. I mean, as far as the style, you can't go out there and throw a shrimp, great frog, and a glide bait, big buzz bait, thinking you're gonna catch. You're gonna catch the right weight. You're just not the numbers it takes to really be on the hunt. And it, it's been very difficult. The last couple of years have been a struggle. So we're gonna make some big changes next year, and I'm looking forward to going back to your 5 fish limit. What big ones?
Cool. Yeah, no, that was awesome though. All right, so when you came in second to Ish, was he throwing a frog as well?
No, I thought it's um, on that deal, but yeah, no, I kind of might have helped him and gave him some advice that I had a couple big bites on a frog, and he caught a 9 the first day on it. So in a way, it kind of may have been me, but he's a frog guy anyway, so who knows? We were all rooming together,
Yeah. So my earliest like truly memorable fishing moment was throwing that old snag proof frog that had the legs on it, and we did everything in our power to make sure we didn't use that thing. And when we get it hung up in the weeds, my cousin and I, we strip down in our underwear and swim out and get it. Because we didn't have a ton of money, and like that that was our money frog. Uh, I feel like anyone that's caught a fish on a frog, like knows like how special they are. Yeah. Like how did you become known as like the frog man?
Probably just more. I fished growing up. I fished at California Delta. I mean, I fished countless tournaments there, and just, I mean, I had a frog tied on January through December with my team partners, and I always caught fish on it. And it was just one of those things that when you got a bait on a frog, it was a better average fish. And so it kind of stuck with me. It's been more than just the technique. So it's more like a fallback technique. It's like, and I've said this many times in the past. It's over the years with knowing. It's more of a muscle memory technique. It's if I find that bite, I feel like I'm good. Like I don't need any other rods on the deck. But maybe a follow up bait. But if I'm struggling on something else, I go back to frogging as my you know easier way to go get bites. I know it sounds crazy, but it's it's just a special technique for me, and I think it's more muscle memory than anything at this point.
Um,
I was going to ask you, but Fred, what what did you guys do before braid? Or uh was braid a thing 20 years ago? Probably wasn't quite yet, was it?
30 years ago, but so heavy mono. I mean, that's what guys used back then. That was before fluorocarbon even. Fluorocarbon really kind of took off after braid. As far as just as being more utilized in fishing. So mono was really the deal that or a copolymer, which is very similar. And he just went heavy. He just went really, really heavy, 25, 30 pound. And then I was fortunate enough to work with Power Pro when it first came out. Um, Conrad Crowling, who was the originator of it. And I was repping his stuff. So I got my hands on Power Pro, way before Shimano ever bought it, anything like
You were
that.
you were probably freaking when you got your hands on some braid.
Sidewire first came up, but he basically removed the Kevlar that they were using in it and came out with Power Pro, and that's how that all went down. And fast forwarding, now I'm using Cortland Master Braid, which is using the same style spindles that the old original Power Pro used. So that's kind of what brought me towards the Cortland Master Braid that I use for frogging. What's unique about it, obviously, this stuff's made here in the U.S. It takes a long time to get a 1,500 yard spool of Master Braid, Cortland Master Braid. You're talking, 50 pound. You're talking 2 weeks to make that. But it's all machine moving, and it doesn't when you're throwing this stuff and you're throwing a frog. There's a lot of braids out there, these slicker kinds that they almost like hold the weight of the water, even though when you tie a frog on, you throw it out there and feeling like you're working the line and not the bait. With Cortland Master Braid, which is like the old original Power Pro, it allows you to work that frog and get the most action out of the bait, and be able to downsize down to 50, 50 pound, and make those longer casts and more accurate. Yeah, so I love the way that the traditional braids work.
so you say downsize to 50 pound. So what's a normal setup for you? Because 50 pound up here in the Midwest, I mean, that's a pretty intense line.
Yeah, so here I got a frog right here. That's kind of seeing something here. This is my new frog, the Sonic Boom. It's not on the market. Huge. We'll share with you that in a second. But so it's funny because like just the reel I'm using right now, this is called a Shimano SLX XT. It's a very inexpensive reel considering what I do for a living. I mean, it's a $120 reel. But what I like about it is you can lock down the drag and it doesn't slip when you set the hook. So make sure, obviously when you're frogging, you have a reel that you can lock the drag down and not get any slippage. So even some of the higher end ones allow more of they actually have better drag washers. So they have a consistent slippage, which is it's doing what it's supposed to do. But when you're frogging, you don't want any drag whatsoever. So I actually love this reel for it because I can lock down the drag, and it's their lower end style reel. Okay, but with that said, it casts a mile. It works great, and so I go 50 pounds straight right to it. But the rod that I use, this is actually a Phoenix rod. It's an M174 heavy action. Um, it's not like so. A lot of guys like before we frog when we're talking about mono, you wanted like a broomstick because there's so much stretch in that line, right? So when you set the hook, there was that little bit of a give, and if you didn't have a stiff enough rod and you used the softer rod, you probably would miss most of your blowups. You need that impact to be able to yank those fish out of that cover and drive that hook into a fish's mouth, especially at a far distance. So I found that this 7.4 heavy is absolutely perfect. It's got a lot of tip to it, allows me to skip, and it's got a good, almost not really parabolic bend, but it's a fast action rod, but it's still got a load to it that allows that frog to take, the bass to take the frog, and then when you swing it, there's a little bit of giveness because with the braid, there's absolutely zero, and it just seems to work perfect for me. My hookup ratios have gone way up with this rod. And again, like I said, 50 pounds Cortland Master Braid. This is like the ultimate rod. I've done signature frog rods in the past with other companies, and they've all been great, but they've all been kind of limited runs and stuff like that. But overall, this is my favorite frog setup right here.
Nice.
Right. Now, do you ever throw maybe like a medium heavy, or is
So
what's the rod?
a medium heavy, you could. This rod is, even though it says a heavy, this is like a heavy medium heavy. Makes sense. It's like almost softer than most heavies, but that's what I was trying to say. It loads up perfect. It's hard to find that because every rod company uses, they're different materials, different classifications of the rod, so it's real hard to find that perfect rod for frogging. Medium heavy probably with other brands would be more like this heavy M1, and that's why I like it so much. They make an extra heavy, and I think it's too heavy. So this heavy, I do have a medium heavy that I would use if I'm throwing some of the smaller frogs. We got some smaller prototypes and stuff like that. But I think that medium heavy in this rod's like perfect for your buzz dates and even your spooks and even like a bladed jig. I mean, that's it, or swim jigs. Uh, um, but this heavy action is absolutely perfect.
Nice.
All right, you gave us a little sneak peek on that frog. I want to see it.
All right, so we've had the Boom Boom Frog. I did it with actually designed it way back in the day. Man, maybe it's 10 years ago now. We started this project with the Boom Boom Frog, and I did it with some buddies, some an older gentleman of my friend, his friend, and he backed it and everything else. And I'm very thankful for that opportunity to come out with this frog, the Boom Boom Frog. Well, we've sold it recently last year to GSM, and it was really the best thing. I mean, my friend's in his 80s now, so it's just too much to try to handle a frog business and try to keep, coming up with the next best thing. So it was a great move for GSM to buy it. We started this frog factory. We teamed up and started this deal. And since then, we've actually been working on some new baits. And this new frog, so the Boom Boom Frog had a little patch on the back and had a little frog fur. Familiar with that bait at all?
Yep.
It basically is like training wheels for hope sets. The fish will grab it and they have a hard time blowing it out. The problem is when you had the frog fur on the top, which we still have that with the GSM. It's a great frog. Don't get me wrong; it's a little wider than this one. Is when it gets a little bit of like slime or like a little bit of water on that, you want to flip over when you cast it. So you got to make sure that you cast into like an open hole pocket. You have a pocket right side back right. This one you won't ever have to worry about that. We removed the frog fur altogether. We used a much softer rubber on this one. We've added some mylar into the legs. I actually trimmed its legs pretty short on this one. This is for a derby tonight. It's the bone color. It's a new color we brought out.
Bam, that was good.
The Boom Boom Frog. See, round headier, eye tight, gauge than most other frogs. Or most of them are like pulse thin, like loop that you tie to. This is not. This is a heavy duty deal, and the clevis on it that actually holds the nose in is weighted, and so when you have the weight on the bottom and you have the weight up here, it kind of wants to rock. And I always call it like a T-ride frog, like a T-ride cotter. So when I walk this thing and I kill it, they'll actually get in a little pop. And sometime, working real fast and then killing it, it has an extra little hop. That is the trigger that gets those fish to bite. So
Nice.
we've also added
Yeah.
the mylar legs. We still have the eyeball on the chin. And here's the other thing. These hooks, if you guys are familiar with the Italian brand BKK, these are a wide bite frog hook. So we got the BKK hooks in this frog. I'm really excited about it because not only is it real soft, that bite is massive.
Yeah.
And they sit so firm to this frog. Like I'm just rubbing my fingers over the top of it. You're not going to catch any of that little bit of moss and grass, and that could ruin the cover that you're trying to fish. And if you throw a frog out there and it's catching cover every time, you're really wasting your time. You want to be able to throw a frog everywhere and make sure that it's in the strike zone and not messing up the cover and the environment the fish are in. So this frog, in my opinion, we worked real hard to make the most perfect, absolutely incredible frog. The other thing we did, we added a little tubing to the bottom that eliminated water getting into it. The separating out on the hook set. We do, but these BKK hooks are so heavy, wire gauge, super sharp. You're really not gonna have much flex on anyway.
Dude,
So
thing
yeah,
is juicy.
this is it. You guys are seeing it first. The new Sonic Boom. We're gonna release it at ICAST, and we've got several new colors.
That thing looks like it will walk amazing.
Oh yeah, it's designed to walk. That
Yeah.
I
I
just made a post a little while ago on my Instagram, showing it in my pond, and just you have to zoom in because it's an Instagram post. You got to zoom in, but you can see the thing just walk, and you can see when I kill it, it gets that extra little hop out of it, and you know, obviously first cast massive blower
yeah.
match fair.
I
So
s- somehow found myself and you pulled that out. I'm like 6 inches closer to the computer screen, like ready to
No.
rock one. I, I I got a couple questions, just selfish questions for you now, Fred. Probably a two-part question. Um, one, how important is cadence when frog fishing? Actually, going to be a three-part question. Two, two and three together. Like, if I'm fishing a frog here in out Ohio, probably more on huckweed or like sparse duckweed and pads. What would be like your starting go-to cadence for this in general?
the biggest thing, honestly, the fish are going to tell you what's up when it comes to cadence. Uh, but we actually built a pond at our house growing up. And like I said, way before I was on a bass boat, but I've known frogs from the banks. It really intrigued me to go down to the pet shop and buy these little baby mice, little pinkies, and throw them in the pond with bass. We put a couple bass in there, they throw them in the pond. And right when you throw one of those little baby mice in the pond, it kind of stops for a second and freaks out. Like it almost shocks them. So it just sits there. So when you throw the frog, I think the best thing to do is let it sit there for a second, because when you throw a little baby mouse in the pond or something like that, it'll just sit there. A little lizard, same thing. And then when it kind of realizes it's not in a comfortable situation, after just a little pause, it takes off really, really fast. So if you ever watch me throwing a frog, I'm usually pretty quick with it. I like to get it to hit the water, and then I like to try to block it and make it go real quick, and then I'll kill it again. That usually triggers a blow. And I've always kind of just thought about what I've seen in real life, with what I've witnessed, feeding bass myself in a pond. And I think that's what taught me how to take that experience and utilize it in fishing when I started fishing the Delta in tournaments, and getting a lot of confidence in winning tournaments out there. Throwing a frog is just understanding how the bait would react. I mean, when we throw a frog, we're not necessarily mimicking a frog. We're mimicking something easy to ambush for the bass. And that panic nature of a bait fish, of a mouse, of a bird, of, a crawfish, even just wanting to pull powder. Those are the trigger mechanisms that make bass react. And I think just witnessing it, seeing it, experiencing it, and then move towards actually fishing it. And I think that's what I love about frog fishing the most is you have to make them bite it. It's not like a bait that you just throw out there and let it fall and a fish eats it, or you slowly drag it and a fish eats it, or you just crank it in and a fish eats it. You've got to actually manipulate it. You got to be like a puppet master upon the lure and make those fish want it. And once you figure out what it is, a lot of times, I noticed just out here at Lake Darnell, they're not wanting just a slow walk with it. They're not interested. They want it buzzing and killing. So I'm literally just snapping it. It's kind of doing a little bit of a walk, but it's real fat. And then I kill it. And that's when you're bull scrapping. A lot like that. I'm talking. Sorry, it's neat to see. And then once you figure out how they want it, you can take that and blend that pattern. It's really all over the lake.
So, how do you decide between a walking frog and a hopping frog?
So I got a lot of buddies that just swear by the popping frog and stuff like that, but they and I know a lot of guys like the popping frog. I feel like I can snap a pointy frog like this. I can snap that. We have a kind of a flat side on it. And it'll make enough commotion, kind of like a popping frog, if that's what you want to do. If you're trying to pollution one, making a lot of commotion out of a popping frog. But to me, a popping frog, like even with my boom boom popping frog, it's more of a finesse frog. It's more of a frog I take around boat docks, undercut banks, maybe some laydowns. I don't really like the popping frog around lily pads or heavy grass because the lip will catch that cover, and kind of disturb the cover. At this point, you know, frog will, they let you fish it over all kinds of cover. So 90% of the time, I'm just throwing a plain frog like this one. Yeah.
So with that said, the last couple of years, the frogs that have the paddle shell feet, I really started to kind of surface a lot with different brands. Have you fished those much? Kind of like a hollow body rivet?
Yeah. So actually, the Frog Factory, they purchased the stamp ribbons, and so we have that in our arsenal, and they've got the top toed. I love the top toed. So basically, it's a hollow belly. You still have to, you've got to buy the hook separate. I think it actually comes in a package with one hook for it. But it's a hollow belly frog, but it's that, you know, plastic material that is good for several fish. And you got to replace it, right? Um, it it's cool because you can burn it on the surface. Like if I'm in the search mode, I'm trying to find fish in a new body of water. I always have that thing tied on because I'm just racing it across the water, trolling motor on pretty much high, just looking for activity. And that's when I slow down. The cool thing about that top toad is you can kill that bait and you can walk it a little bit, and it sits there and floats. Where regular toad is more of just a buzzing presentation. And again, in really skinny water, that buzzing presentation is very important. The thing about skinny water is the fish don't have like low tide or they pull water and the water's low like it is right now here where I live. In tidal situations or Mississippi River when they water one day it's up, the next day it's down, which is a lot like where we live. Any of these rivers. Uh, if you have 2.5 foot of water and there's room for the fish to come straight up and hit your frog and come straight back down, chances are if you miss that fish, he's still right there. When the water gets real low and condensed, they come up, they hit it, they go down, they hit their nose back in the mud. It's over. You might as well give 15 minutes for even trying throwing back around that area because that fish is toast. If you got 2.5 foot of water or greater, maybe even 2 foot, you could probably get that fish to bite again. But a buzzing toad in that shallower water is great because you can see them coming. You see them waking towards it. You can prepare yourself for that blow up. When that water gets, and that's that 2 foot or less water is really when that buzzing frog to me is the way to go. If you see it coming, get ready for it. You know it's going to happen. Making recruits are hooked up that way. If you are just trying to throw a hollow bellied frog in that shallow stuff, just go catch fish. You'll miss something. You'll still see them coming sometimes, but sometimes you're working a little bit slower so they can stealthily move up to you a little bit better. I like knowing they're coming, and I feel like my opportunities are better because I'm ready for that hook set. But again, just keep in mind the depth that you're fishing a frog because a lot of times, one day you're catching them and they're absolutely annihilating it, and you're hooking them every time. When you see that tail come down, set the hook immediately. I mean, they've got the frog. If it's just a big boil on it, sometimes you got to wait a second and make sure he's got it because if they just boil on it and you swung it, it's hard to get back on them. You may get the braid twisted around your rod or something like that, and sometimes it's hard to get a follow bait. But the bait's still sitting there, so that's when you want to kind of let them feel for it. And then set the hook. But again, it just comes back to doing it so much, you get that repetition and muscle memory back into the technique. But you all want to make sure they eat the frog. So if I still see that frog sitting there, I bolt set the hook, right? So they come back up.
That's hard to do, though.
It's hard. That's why it's hard for me to explain it because it's like it just takes years and years of days on water, to get to that point. But that's what's so fun about frog fishing. It's still, even after doing this full time for 20 years, but 10 years prior to that, I was throwing frogs. It's never a dull moment. It's always fun. It's exciting. Yeah, I love it.
Now
I don't have that. So
Jesse,
get this, I am flight California to go do the ultimate frog challenge on my old stomping grounds, the Delta, where all you're allowed to do is throw frogs. So
yeah. Now Jesse and I just fished a little club event, and I threw a frog all day. And the very first cast, as soon as it hits the water, I didn't even have a chance to words it. Caught a 3-pounder, and I was like, "Oh, it's gonna be a good day." And I mean, it was just lots. So
Will you? Are there windows during the day, Dad, when you look forward to throwing that frog, like when the sun's highest in the sky, or early morning when Glover?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of it, there's always the windows. There's always, it seems like no matter what time of the year, there's that 20-minute window. And it's realized during that 20 minutes, you're going to be on the top of you're going to be in the top of the tournament standings. To get the rest of the bike, you usually got to work really hard for them. But to try to gain that knowledge of when that window is, to me, early in the year, obviously water temperature is everything. Uh, you want that water temperature from maybe mid 50s, start pushing that 60 degree, watch that water temperature climbing throughout the day. That's usually when they start biting. And I like 58 degrees around here on these northern strain bass. I feel like if I can get around 58, I'm going to get on a frog bite and get those big girls before most guys even think of throwing a frog. And have a lot of water to myself doing that technique. Now, granted, here we are in the summertime, sun straight up. A lot of times, if you're fishing this time of the year, all the grass growth is real thick, and you can hear the snapping and the popping of the brim under it, and sometimes carp or whatever it is. It's the noise of the environment. You start seeing the dragonflies, and you start seeing the activity. That's when it's right. If it's real quiet and dull, then sometimes you got to work for those bites. But you just the one thing about it, the one thing about a frog, you may not get a lot of bites when it's quiet, but they will hit you unexpectedly, and you have to be prepared for it. So there's a lot of intense hours where you're not getting bit, and then all of a sudden you get that one bite. It's the one. So yeah, you'll figure windows out, get out there all the days. That's where practice is real important for a tournament for me. But if you're just going out fishing, early in the morning, you always get some frog bites in the summer, and then in the evenings usually pretty good as well. But there's always that midday bite that is that 20-minute window we talk about, and it could just be late afternoon, or midday cloud cover that kind of rolls in a pre-front. We get a lot of those systems this time of the year, and if you can get out there before they before lightning strikes. Well, yeah, I just find I love it when you get those high cumulus clouds and they just start building up around you. Start getting those like shade pockets kind of rolling around. Sometimes you get that 10 o'clock in the morning kind of haze. It's just kind of like the whole sky gets a little hazy. That's a window. If you'll almost sense it. I don't know. It's almost it's like instinctive. Right? But you sense it. You're like, this feels right for a frog. I remember I was at Guttersville. I was waylaying them on a crankbait on a ledge, and then all of a sudden, the wind died. Everything just got hazy and it got slick out there. I pulled my frog out, open water over a ledge, and caught a 5-pounder. I just felt it. I pulled, but that was like it wasn't even in my brain cell, wasn't even the technique I was doing. I said, this feels right. I remember doing it at Folsom Lake in California. There was just one lay down, and it just felt right. And I dove in my box and grabbed that frog and just walked across there and caught an 8-pounder. And it was just like, what a decision,
That's the best feeling.
Go out there and you put a frog from sun up to sundown and do it for several days. You'll figure it out real quick.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask you, Fred. As far as tournaments go, do you completely live and die on the frog, or what do you do if you're 6 hours in and you just finally come to terms with it's not the day? Like, what's your next go-to bait, or what's your favorite follow-up bait as well?
Yeah, I mean, granted, I come from California. I've got all the finesse techniques. For me, the format that I'm fishing currently, the Bass Pro Tour, super fun, high adrenaline. I mean, we're getting a score tracker. Frog fishing is a super focused technique, and it's something that you generally don't search for numbers with, but you search for the right bites. So having no limitation to the amount of fish that we fish for has really hurt me. It's hurt me, for one. I probably don't throw it as much as I want to because I know I can't. And I'm always fighting that when we have one period where that live scope, fish. So I'm always making sure during that period I'm out there trying to scope them while I can, keep up with these young kids. But at the same time, my fallback technique is frogging. So those other periods, picking up a frog or swim bait. I mean, those I know I get the right fights, and I have been getting the right fights. I really have. I mean, um, we just came off the heavy hitters event where it was fun because I didn't care about points. I didn't care about anything but catching big bass. And I went out there and it was honestly a toss up between throwing a frog or throwing a glide bait. Well, I never get a chance to throw a glide bait. And I went there with the intent to go throw a glide bait, and I caught big bass day one and caught one that was it was only an ounce shy of big bass day two, and I reweighted on a different scale and I dropped it to 2 pound shot. But I mean, it could have gone either way. But I mean, I've had fun being able to go back to these big baits, these techniques, frog and swim baits and stuff like that. And it just that tournament told me you're not really having fun right now the way you're fishing. You're fishing for numbers and you're not fishing for what you love doing, what you got you here, which has kept you in the game for
Quality over quantity.
quality over quantity. And I'm not saying I've caught a lot of big fish. I scoped an 8 pounder last year at Toledo Bend, but I mean, it's not like I get you can catch big fish doing that stuff as well because you're seeing you're fishing out where I love doing it, but it's what got me here, what I've done for 20 years and the new way of fishing. I want to fish something where I can go back to throwing a frog and a swim bait and keying on 5 fish. And hey, if I scope some that way too, that's great. But I want to just make sure that I'm doing what I like to do because otherwise it's not fun.
Right. Life's too short, right?
Yeah. So I'm excited. I'm actually so excited for next year. I don't know what I'm fishing next year, but I can tell you right now, I'm definitely going to be chasing some 5 fish limit tournaments.
Nice. Nice. Well, there's options.
There's options. The BPT is also making this big cut, 50 guys, and they released the schedule, and it looks like an amazing schedule. I'd love to be fishing that, but I don't think I'm gonna make that 50 cut. And I think it's for a reason. I really think I was blessed not to make that. And they may say, "Hey, your career average will put you back in," and that's a big decision to make. But I think I'm gonna choose hunting 5.
Cool.
So back to Jesse's question, when you're hunting 5, is it easier to just stick with a frog or a big swim bait and know that when you get in front of the right 5, like that's all that matters?
I kind of missed what you said. It was kind of fuzzy on my end. I'm sorry. What was that?
So going back to what Jesse asked, with a 5 fish format, is it easier to throw a frog all day, knowing that you just have to hit those right 5 fish and that's all that matters? Or do you still get to that point where you're like, hey, I've got 2 fish, I need to fall back?
Oh yeah, no, there's still going to be a challenge. I mean, there's going to be place. I mean, not every lake's going to allow me to do the frog, and not every lake's going to allow me to do the strange. Yeah, there's going to be times where I'm going to have to play, some different cards, but I do feel a lot better knowing that I'm only hunting down 5, and when I do get a bite on a frog, it's usually the right quality and it usually stays in the live well. So um, I can spend a lot more time throwing the baits like that. And I would an ideal tournament for me is 3 rods on my deck, maybe 4, a frog, a buzzbait, maybe something to flip, and either a glide bait or swim bait. That's if I can. So I guess it'd be 5 rods because I have a glide bait and swim bait. But that's it. Like if I could just do those techniques, I
For sure.
feel like I can cash checks in most tournaments. I know it's wild, but and I've won a lot of money. Drop shot and I won a major drop shot and shaking it. It was $250,000. So I can't say that I won't do that stuff, but I'll do it when the time's right. And what worked for me was having these core techniques of throwing a frog and the swim bait as my A and B plans, right? Like these are my go-to deals. And then my fallback was the finesse stuff. As the tours and everything has progressed, the pressure on a lot of these lakes, these are more turning into the fallback techniques in your drop shot and your scoping and your minnows are your core techniques now. And it's just backwards. Like it's still backwards. That should be your finesse stuff should be the way you should, approach his panic box. I guess you could say you're like, I need to catch some fish. Let me pick up a wacky rig. I'm there. Let me pick nuts. But now, it's primary techniques. And again, a lot of it's the format. fishing. So
Sure.
Fred, give me your top three favorite frog lakes in the country. Make sure you give me one in the south and one in the middle.
well, I got to go back to my roots. California Delta is probably my favorite frog lake. I've caught some multiple 9, 10 pound bass there on a frog. So that's probably my number one. I can only give you three. So the next lacrosse, Wisconsin is where one of my first ever start tournament. I got me back on the ability to basically relaunch my career from being negative, broke in my account. Like didn't know what my next move was going to be. Winning that lacrosse tournament on a frog, that really did it. And then so that'd be kind of the north one.
Yep.
South, man, there's a lot of good ones down south. So we got the West Coast, we got the North. I'm gonna say, dude, just about any lake in Florida. I'm probably gonna do the invitationals, and they're going to Harris Chain, so definitely not Harris Chain.
Right.
I don't like. I did really good in a cup event on Headwaters, throwing a frog, and it makes every weedless one day, but I finished second for the day. So yeah, that was one of the fun. That was a fun frog place. So like I said, anywhere in Florida, you catch one frog. And it's funny because when I first went to Florida back in 20 years ago for my first time, everyone's like, "Oh, they don't eat the frog like they do out west." No, they do. Or they've learned to over the years or something because it's incredible frog fishing in Florida.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about lacrosse. That's kind of a destination trip I want to make. Like, is it just go explore and you'll run into them eventually?
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I mean, there's so much matted vegetation. Like I was saying earlier about the strike zones and the water level, that place comes into mind because I took fifth at our red crest in 2019. Frogging is my predominant deal, and it was a 5 fish limit. I think honestly, I'd have won that tournament. It was the best 5 on the final day, but it was a numbers deal. But that lake, there's just so much duckweed, and you got to look for. I'll give you the biggest secret there. There's two things. Obviously, there's current because there's a river. You don't want it to be just dead out of the current. You need it to be somewhat of a ditch or a flow that goes through somehow. And then adjacent to that, you'll find these little flats and little depressions. And it could be one little spot. You can catch 20 fish in a row. And it's just a matter of getting that frog around and just firing as many casts as you can to practically find those little spots. If you can find 3 or 4 of them, you'll be at the top of the leaderboard, I promise you. I remember we were fishing out of Stoddard one year. We were all fishing up north, and the majority of the field ran down to Stoddard, and we all fished these giant, massive grass flats. Well, I spent most of my practice there, and I found just enough depressions to be the last man standing in that scenario and finish fourth in the elite tournament. The only one to make the top 10 fish in that area, and it was really cool because I figured out the little spots where I get multiple bites.
Nice. We got to make a trip, Aaron.
I'm down.
Just a lot of little gems are on there too. I mean, frog fishing still. I mean, it's kind of fun watching. Like, I got a younger son, or the older one. He's going to college to fish, and he's so good with the technology. And I'm not saying I suck at it. It's not what got me to where I'm at in my career. And he can drop that on a dime and go back to frogging. Where to me, I'm not gonna waste my time doing that if I'm you know what I mean. So it's cool to watch the generation get good at it. But at the same time, it's really cool because a lot of them are gonna be out in the middle of lake fishing, and it allows a lot more shoreline for me to fish. So that's what I'll.
Nice.
I like. I was told a long time ago in California that there will always be fish on the bank, no matter what, and the right ones if you can figure out how to catch them. And just knowing that They may not be the schooling ones, but on a 5-fish format, if you can hunt down 5 on the bank, you can catch 5 big ones.
Yeah.
And until you do it and find success doing it, that's a hard thing to wrap your brain around.
Especially
It's
when
like-
they can be in that much water.
Yeah.
It blew my mind. Just even California going, like our shallow water there is like 3-4 foot. Like it's not here on the river where I live. It's like 10 inches.
Yeah.
And you know, like I said, I can see those fish coming when they're coming to eat my frog. And if I don't connect with them properly that first try, you might as well leave that spot alone for at least 15 minutes. Let that fish reposition. We'd set up. People get to bite again, and that's the biggest thing. I think a lot of people make a mistake and milk a spot after a blow up, and then you're just conditioning that fish not to eat. If that makes sense.
So you just usually don't crow back in there?
I ease back in there and try to catch them again, and usually it happens.
Gotcha.
Nice. Well, Fred, we're coming up on an hour. And if you could just leave our listeners with something to help them be successful. I mean, you've given them a wealth of knowledge wherever. But just something to be successful this summer, targeting those little green fish.
To be successful, we're catching some frogfish.
Yep.
Sorry, that's static on my phone.
Yeah, you're good.
I'll tell you the biggest thing is, just the simplest tips, obviously, is lock down your drag on a reel. Throw straight braided line. Okay, so ratio of the reel, that's another question I get a lot. Pick you a 7-2-1, keep it right around there. The problem with an 8, you might be able to fish it a little bit faster and get back to a fish faster. You lose that power when you're setting the hook and you're winding that fish in. It's more work than it needs to be. A 7-2 is plenty fast. So I personally like that. There's times I'll even back it down to a 6-5. I'm trying to walk it in place in a little strike zone because most of my cadence is about the same, the way I work a frog. But probably the best advice is just for straight 50-pound Cortland master braid. Lock down your drag, get you a new sonic boom frog and a heavy action rod, like a 7'4" M1 Phoenix. And don't be afraid to throw it anywhere. I mean, you could throw it shade lines, you could throw it over, any pond you got. A frog is one of the best baits you can throw. Don't be afraid to throw it over the thickest vegetation. Like I said, there'll be a little alley or a little spot under there where that fish is chilling in the summer, and he'll come up and smoke that frog. Don't expect to catch every fish that blows up, but expect to get some awesome bites and
Nice.
have some fun.
Can you tell me and our listeners where the first place is I can get that frog?
Tackle Warehouse will be one of the first places that'll have it. So
Okay.
I would say I keep your eye on Tackle Warehouse. I think it's going to be at just about every store you see any of the GSM brands. And
Okay.
so Bass Pro Shops, Academy, I would imagine Big Sporting Goods. I mean, I would say all the major box stores.
Okay.
So yeah, it's coming.
Do they have them right now, just waiting to put them on the shelves, or will they ship after ICAC?
Well, I'm not in charge of that side of the production of things. I just
want to know how quick I can get it.
I know, right? I think it's still, so we got another bait we're coming out with that's going to be a little bit longer of a pause, but this one will be pretty quick. I would say a couple weeks old, guys.
That's cool. Nice. Well, Fred, we appreciate you taking time out of your day. If I'm ever down in Arkansas, I'll let you get me on a river bite.
Guys, that want to come down to Dart House? Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I'd love to. And Nick, thanks for working through the technical difficulties with us.